Hi, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and today we are going to discuss how to set healthy boundaries with others, especially maybe friends, family, the late wife's family, loved ones, acquaintances, people who maybe talk about the late wife at inappropriate times, or maybe post a lot of things on Facebook. Basically, anytime you're with them, they want to talk about the late wife and I don't know, their grief or something like that, and which is, fine, they can do what they want, but maybe it's at inappropriate times or it's interfering with your relationship, and you need to set healthy boundaries with them. The inspiration for this is actually a journal entry that I wrote way back in 2003, and you might be wondering what were you doing looking at a journal entry from way back in 2003. Well, as most as you know, I'm finishing me and Julie are finishing up a book that kind of talks about her perspective of dating a widower and the issues that she kind of had to go through. And so, in doing research for that, I was actually going through some older journal entries, and I found an email exchange that me and my dad had back in November of 2003. And I'm trying to think why I even kept this email, my dad's email, and my response to it. I have no idea why I kept it. I'm actually going to use parts of it in the book, actually, but I think it sets maybe a good example of how people, maybe unintentionally, I would say, maybe are saying or doing inappropriate things, or maybe things that can make the woman that you're dating kind of feel like second place, and maybe a good way to kind of respond and set boundaries. And this was all done over email, but I think the same principles and things apply to setting it in like a real life conversation, having a conversation face to face, or doing things like that. And Dad, if you're watching, by the way, I love you. This hasn't been an issue in a long time, but I think it serves as a good example of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read my dad's email, and then I'm going to read my response to it, and I'll probably stop here and there and kind of intersplice my thoughts in there. But anyway, I think it's a good example of maybe people crossing boundaries, or maybe being inappropriate in some way, and then being able to set those healthy boundaries. So this is what my dad wrote, and he wrote this on November 11th. The email was actually sent on November 11th, and if you know anything, this would be the day after my late. This is 2 years to the day, or my late wife killed herself on November 10th, so this is November 11th, 2 years later. So it's basically 2 years date of death, and this is what my dad sent. He sent me this email. He says, "Hi Abel, it was nice to see you and Juliana on Saturday. I hope she will be feeling better soon. She's pregnant at this point with our first child, so going through morning sickness and stuff like that. I intended to call you last night, but it was too late. I was thinking all day yesterday about Krista and Hope, so my late wife and my deceased daughter. I had stopped by the cemetery on the way back to Casper. It's difficult for me, I confess. I'm not sure why, but I don't seem to handle things as well as some folks seem to. I don't really know. There are too many questions, and having to deal with my own guilt doesn't help any. I know full well where they are, and I'm happy for them in that respect, but I greatly miss both of them nonetheless. Anyway, I imagine you're thinking of the two of them also, and hope that you are doing well as can be expected. You must miss them more than anyone. What can I do?" Okay, so my dad's kind of laying his feelings out there. Wants to know, probably assuming that I'm feeling the same way. Wants to know what I can do. Okay, so far so good. And then he says this. He says, "I fear that Juliana feels compared to Krista by all or most of us. I tried to reassure her this past summer that I don't do that, and I love her for who she is. Do you think she understands that? Krista was like a daughter to me, and that's how I see Juliana, nothing less. I'm not sure how to convince her of that. Maybe you could help me understand if she doesn't. I hope she and the baby are well, and that she allows you to dote on her. She indicated to me that she's still trying to do everything. I suggested that she let you work for her and do thoroughly enjoy being pregnant and spoiled. That's all I'm willing to say at this point. Fear is coming across as an interfering in-law. Please give her my love when you see her tonight. I hope everything else goes well with you. Hope to see you again soon." So there's my so there. That's my dad's email, right? He's it's again 2 years date of death. He's feeling sad and has his own maybe guilt issues about my late wife and daughter dying, and then talks about hey, I think Juliana feels compared to Krista, and I think actually at that time, I think this Julie and I would have been married less than a year at this point. So November, so maybe 9-10 months, something like that at this point. So and and 2 years out, I think feelings are still kind of raw. So I think good observation, Dad. Yeah. I think, she does kind of feel compared to Krista, but I don't think it helps, for example, that, you're talking about Krista like this. So anyway, here's my response to my dad, that I sent the next day. And again, I'm putting this out just as an example of maybe how to set healthy boundaries. I think it's a good example of that. So the next day I wrote, Dad, it isn't easy being the wife of a widower. From our first date, Julie has had to struggle with the fear of constantly living in the shadow of Krista. It's hard for Julie when friends and family members bring up reminders of Krista or Hope on anniversaries of their death, birthdays, holidays, or at other occasions. Julie and I both know when these days are and don't need reminders. If you want Julie to know that you love her for who she is, then don't bring up reminders of Krista or Hope. It doesn't help when Mom, for example, gives me a book on coping with suicide or mental illness. I know Mom means well, but I have dealt with Krista's suicide and moved on. Reminders of these days make Julie and I feel like my thoughts and feelings should be with Krista and Hope instead of Julie. So again, well, one thing I do want to point out. So I'm giving him some specific examples here of behavior that might cause tension with Julie and our relationship. So I'm not just saying don't bring her up. I'm talking about my mom sending books, and I'm referencing my dad's email. So I'm giving specific examples here, but I'm also putting on the idea that I think both my dad and my mom have good intentions about what they're doing. I don't think they're being malicious. For example, I don't think my dad sending that email was, for example, I don't think he was being malicious by doing that. I think he had the best intentions. Same with my mom. She emails me this book on coping with suicide, as a suicide loss survivor, things like that. And it's like, again, I don't think my mom is I think she's trying to be helpful, but not really being helpful, right? So again, I'm kind of pointing out some specific examples. So then I go on. I say, when I made the decision to marry Julie, I had to put all my unanswered questions and feelings of guilt away. It wasn't easy, but I came to the conclusion that I could either spend my life thinking about what might have been, or I could try to make tomorrow a little better than today. I've stopped thinking about what I could have done differently that may have prevented Krista from taking her own life. All I can do is learn from my mistakes and hopefully be a better husband and father because of what I've experienced. I've also learned that not all of our questions will be answered in this life. Maybe in the next life I'll get answers to the questions I've stopped asking. Maybe I won't. Either way, I'm not letting my past feelings for Krista interfere with my current feelings for Julie. My life now consists of Julie and the baby that's growing inside of her. I can't live two lives. I can't continue to grieve for my dead wife and daughter and love Julie and our new baby. I hope that I don't come across as callous about my feelings toward Krista or Hope. I'm not. I love them very much and always will. Julie knows how I feel. However, we both recognize that they are no longer part of this life. I don't know what you can do to answer the questions or alleviate any guilt that you might have, but I do know there comes a time when you have to let the dead bury the dead and move on. I'm so fortunate to have Julie as my wife. She makes me incredibly happy. I love her with all my heart. She's going to make a great mom, and I feel so blessed and fortunate that she is part of my life. I know that you know this and that you love her too. Leave the past where it is and rejoice with the happiness we have now. Love, Abel. So there's my response to my dad. I gave him a specific example, and then I kind of explained to him exactly where I was. Right? I said, well, I'm married to Julie now. We have a baby on the way, and this is kind of the point I had to get to in order to reach that. There's some of the work, and pointing out, admitting that, hey, I don't have answers to everything. I can't help you get answers to answer questions that I don't even have answers to, but pointing out kind of my mindset and where I am, and then kind of asking my dad basically to kind of leave the past in the past. If you want to be part of this journey with us, it's kind of time to move forward, right? And that's kind of what I was asking him to do here, and again, I'm pointing out again, I hope this doesn't come across as callous as my feelings toward Krista or Hope. I love him very much. I always will. Julie knows how I feel. Again, I'll help you as much as I can, but again, life is moving forward, and I'm kind of asking my dad to move forward too. And so anyway, I found this jewel again back in my journal and thought I'd share it. And hopefully it can give you some ideas or some inspiration on how to deal with torchbearers or others that are maybe kind of lingering in the past and not moving forward, or again, doing things on social media or whatever that are interfering in your current relationship. Again, I think there's a tactful way to do it. I think you should go in assuming good intentions, that people are maybe not doing it to hurt you, and maybe they're doing it to, I think, like in my dad's case, kind of help him with his own guilt. Or with my mom, I think she's looking for answers and assuming that I'm looking for answers. But I think it's kind of one of those difficult conversations that you need to have. And again, I can't remember why I decided to put this in my journal. I don't put all my emails in my journal. I just put select ones in there. But there must have been something back in 2003 that I felt was important enough to document, and I'm glad that I went ahead and did that. And I will say, as a result of this email, I was flipping through some more journal pages, doing some more research. I'm like, hey, I set this in November of 2003. Do I have any documented incidents of my mom sending books after this, or I don't know, more emails from my dad or something? And I couldn't find anything. So I don't know. I'm going to assume that this stopped. My mom sending books and emails and whatnot, and hopefully maybe some other changes were made. Again, I can't recall anything after this, and my journal doesn't mention anything. I went back another year or something looking for stuff, and I couldn't find anything. But I think having that email, sending that email to my dad, kind of set those boundaries and just kind of asking him to move forward as well. And I think I'm going to assume that it worked, because it hasn't really been an issue in years. And Julie couldn't think of. I was asking Julie, I was like, "Do you remember?" She didn't even remember this email exchange, but I was like, "Do you remember when this stopped?" And she couldn't quite remember, but it had to do around the time. She remembers it was kind of things improved before Aiden was born, so that kind of that's our oldest son. And that kind of meshes with the time frame of this email. So I'm thinking it had a positive effect. Again, I don't know if email is the right way to do it for you, if it's better in a face-to-face conversation. But again, this is the boundary. Again, these are conversations that need to be had, especially if you're dealing with people that you might spend a lot of time with. I spend a lot of time with my parents, and Julie and my kids are usually there, and we want it to be a positive experience, and one that, that we're not going to walk away from thinking, why did we go here? Again, we haven't had that in, years and years and years. But again, it's important to set healthy boundaries with these people and let them know where you are and how their actions, right? Again, even well-intentioned, how these well-intentioned actions are hurting your relationship or interfering with your current marriage or whatever it is. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Again, here's the emails. Feel free to leave your own comments in the bottom of your own experiences doing this. You can feel free to schedule a coaching session if you want to have a one-on-one session with me and discuss ways to set healthy boundaries. Feel free to subscribe and comment and like this video and share it with those you think that can benefit from it. I'm Abel, Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and I'll see you next Wednesday.